Hello everyone, Haider here. I'm speaking to you now from Faring in February, so it's almost 2 months, 3 months I haven't posted anything. But the good news is we are working on a plan to share much more best practices on what did we learn at Faring with different digital marketing activities. On that note, the first one that I wanted to share with you today is social media marketing. The reason is it really changed the face of Faring, and we did it collaboratively with other departments like corporate communication and my colleagues Bhavin Vaid, where we really wanted to take Faring to a journey to reshape the power of our brand and the purpose that we have to help families worldwide make babies and have better lives. On that note, social media marketing, what is it? Is all the action, all the activities that are happening on social networks and that have an impact beyond where you have potentially user-generated content that could influence behavior or decisions. For us, it started with the usual suspect. We wanted to penetrate the channels where we expected our audiences to come. But we didn't want it to go just by opening a Facebook page, which most probably people will start thinking, okay, it's a no-brainer, let's open a Facebook page. We wanted to have a plan, and that plan included asking questions to ourselves on what do we want to get out of social media. Example for us was, do we believe that the reputation of the company will be greater and the company will be much more understood and more approachable if we start showing our employees, or if we start creating a proximity with what the company is doing? And again, for us, when we started to think about the plan, we said, it's not about ourselves, it's not about showcasing the company. That should be the minimum type of content we should share in our strategy. We should actually talk about the people we want to serve. We talk about the people that we wanted to help. So in that sense, we wanted to have an audience analysis, and we did that as a second step. So the audience analysis means for us that we don't just want to understand who is speaking on social networks, but what do they want, where are they connected, where are the communities, are they packed in a small bucket with a lot of engagement, or they are all spread on massive social networks like Facebook. So the audience analysis helped us get a sense of segments and persona, and helped us do the third pillar of that plan, which was the content. Once you know who is in front of you and why do you want to engage with them, you start to need the fuel for that plan, which is content or stories, depending on how you look at it. And those stories, you want to tailor them to the exact moment where those people want to hear them. So some of those contents are pretty, generic. You can reach anyone with them, but some of them needs to be really well designed to really resonate with their lives. So this takes a little bit more time, and we worked with agencies to help us do that. This led us to the fourth point of that plan, which is content and resources. Where do you get that type of manpower to handle this? And frankly, a lot of time we go with what we have internally, which is like the interns, the young guys that have already a social media platform on their phone, and you see them at the pose always playing with it. And that was the wrong thing for us to go to. We didn't want to start with this. So we wanted to have a dedicated person that actually understands how to tailor stories from Instagram to Twitter to LinkedIn, because there is some skills associated with creating such stories. So it's not just having the backbone of the story. You need to put it to life using different videos, different pictures, different content type. So that's where you need resources. And if you don't have someone internally, or you don't have a team, depending on the volume and the importance of social media for you, you might want to go with an agency. And that's what we did. We wanted to really understand what could be the scalability of this tactic, and working with an agency can provide you that scalability model. Fifth, what we wanted to understand is results. So as long as you have great objectives, you know where you want to go from a strategic perspective, those social media channels are very quick to respond to your actions. So you want to have great metrics so that you can say, okay, now are we doing this test for 2 weeks? What do we gain? Are we stopping, continuing, killing that activity so that we move on? That agile way of working. So having metrics is important. And what we recommended to everyone before launching those activities is having one set of metrics where we truly understand who are the people that we want to serve. What is the expected behavior we want to get? Do we have it? Do we have this loop back to our content and services pushed throughout the channels? Second, what we wanted to have in those dashboards is that capability to detect if someone has an issue, this one-to-one part. So if you have it, then you can react much sooner. And if you don't, then you are leaving people open to the wild where they don't get a great customer service. And there is then that engagement. The engagement piece is more like whatever we've done, do we have several layers of engagement? Do we have people in a certain segment that will engage in a different way? So reach and engagement are two different levels of metrics. And last is, of course, you have the money because you invest in content, you invest in people and resources, and you invest in advertising. So metrics are a great way to just know at what pace your car is driving. It doesn't mean it's your destination though. So be careful with the way we play with metrics because you can really deep dive in an ocean of data, and that I'm pretty sure no one here is sized to dive in so much data. Another part that is misused or misplanned is customer service. And this is why we talk just about metrics and why it is important, because it could help you scale your customer service. What I mean by customer service is that one-to-one relationship with someone coming on your social network. It could be just a one-to-one that is not visible to the community because they just chat with you on Facebook Messenger. But most probably this one-to-one is visible to everyone else because they just mentioned you or they just asked you something on a comment on your post. And this means that if you don't have that hospitality model when you understand how to approach people and how to listen to them, most probably you will have pretty much angry people in front of you if they are in a distress or if they really want to get an answer right away. So by being prepared on having customer service models inside your organization, you will be able to manage the situation a little bit more smoothly. The way we've done it, and we'll be sharing those templates with you, we have response grids that we developed along the way. It's like having FAQs, and for each FAQs you are anticipating answers, validated answers, and those validated answers will help the organization to be much more reactive when those question occurs. And also from a regulated environment perspective, because we do evolve in a regulated industry, you want to make sure that any response that got out is approved, whatever it is from a legal perspective or medical perspective. So that is also an important step. On the other hand, you want to prioritize and you want to understand which criticity you have in front of you. So we are working on a model where we monitor the frequency, the severity, and also the detectability of each post so that we can, through the tools we have, make sure that we weight them differently. And this priority is linked to the response grid so that you can actually answer in the proper tonality to everyone. That leads us to another point that is somewhere, not really prepared for the PR crisis. So if you have a crisis coming to you, usually people are not ready to answer for it. If you start having those tools in place and those processes in place, the last step, the DEFCON 1 model of that preparation is what do we do if we have a crisis in front of us? And it depends on the companies and the countries. That crisis can mean anything and everything. So I will urge you to define what is important to you in the critical metrics that you've done for your post. So you have a crisis coming and you want to deal with it. Beforehand, I hope and I recommend that you have done drills and simulation so that you have everyone around you required for putting their hands on deck. So that could be legal, that could be medical, that could be marketing, that could be comms, that could be different peoples that will be with you to decide what's the next best action on those channels. It could be that, during the simulation, you have KPIs that you might decide to monitor so that every time you do a simulation, it could be a random simulation in a country, in a topic, on a brand, whatever, but you do it so that the time you have to face it, you actually have a very factual and responsible answer to the situation. This is leading us to adaptability, and another point that is very, very much connected to the nature of social network is you have to be adaptable. You have to make sure that whatever you are posting on one channel, whatever you are advertising on one channel is adapted to the audience and the situation. So we don't recommend creating that copy-paste activities so that you start something on LinkedIn and you just copy-paste the content for YouTube and then you go to Facebook. We usually ask you to think of an editorial plan. So potentially, because of the nature of the audience or the nature of the people answering on some channel, you want to adapt your tonality or you want to adapt your content. For example, the way we interact on Instagram is slightly different than the way we interact on Twitter. And the way we are serving people on LinkedIn is slightly different than the way we interact with people on Facebook. So this is where it gives a purpose to each footprint of the company on those social networks. And hopefully people will decide, because of their natural taste, to stick with one channel or to switch to another one. And potentially because also the nature of the content or the services delivered on those channels are different. So what if you have everything in place and you still don't see traction? Most probably because nowadays, without advertising, without juicing those posts and those activities with money and advertisements, your organic visibility might not get you very far. And on advertising, you have to remember two things. You can advertise for your own post. So you start with organic post and you see, oh wow, awesome, this is getting really well organically. Then you are pushing those posts with advertising. And you can also think of creating advertisements for a website or an app that is outside of the network. But keep in mind that pretty much all those networks are pushing you to stay within. So from a pay-per-click perspective, from a performance marketing perspective, you might want to diversify, understand, and test which channel is better for which goals. So coming back to those reporting, this is where you start connecting the dots. If you think about now advertising, it's very much evolving now to an audience-based model compared to a keyword-based model. I'm not saying that it's not keyword-based, but more and more you want to come back to your persona, your audiences, and start thinking, okay, now I want to reach and change the behavior of this type of people. And for example, in fertility, this could be that someone who is thinking of having a bigger car or a bigger flat is potentially, if they are in that journey to conceive, they are maybe thinking of conceiving and changing one big element of their life. I'm not saying we will buy ads for those, but they might match the segment of someone ready to conceive and having a family. Example. Here, you might want to buy an audience that is fitting that type of people rather than buying keywords such as planning a family. That will be weird to find. So just to give you a perspective of programmatic buying versus classical keywords advertising, you might want to get help from an agency that is specialized in this so that you can start having a media plan that makes sense with your content plan and getting along with those two activities. Last but not the least, wherever you have social media, we know it's online, but think of it that this is beyond the internet or mobile applications. You can use social media channels and audiences to fuel your offline activity as well. example, you are on a booth and you want to spark attention to an activity that you have, or you want to prepare an activity. So you can use social media channels to create engagement before, during, or after that physical event. And same goes for consumer activities. You can really start connecting offline channels with social media channels. And that multi-channel approach is a fundamental layer for multi-channel marketing because of the nature and the scale of social media. With this, we'll leave you with a lot of information on the video. Hopefully, if you have any question, feel free to reach. But what I will ask you to do is potentially just share your experience. If something resonated well, tell us what you think. And if you have experience with one of those points and you want to share your best practice, please tell us how did you approach them so that we can all collaboratively learn and hopefully as an industry start having best practices that are well known and that we can create better customer experiences on social media. Thank you so much and see you at the next video. Bye.